I love when an episode of Super Sentai is about to end. No, not because that's when everything is over and I finally get to stop because I hate Sentai. No, it's because of the tropes of this franchise and how they play into the end of the episode with the giant robot battles. I have loved giant robots since I was a little kid with Transformers, and Sentai really elevated this love of giant robots for me with its unique style and aesthetics regarding its fight scenes. I love the look of these mecha, whether they're multicolored hodgepodges or unified works of art, and all of them are awesome in one way or another, just standing there or just fighting in action. They're all super duper cool, and the fact that Kikai Sentai Zenkaiger is celebrating so many of these beautiful mechas with similarly beautiful designs is super cool. That's why today I'm going to be ranking every single Super Sentai mecha slash robo slash megazord in celebration of Sentai's 45th anniversary. Actually, I'm limiting myself to just the primary robots, so this video is not insane to make. There's still over 40 megazords to go over, so I'm splitting things up into separate parts, with one of the episodes coming out on the day of the actual 45th anniversary. I'm not really sure. Since this is such a big project for me, please consider subscribing and sharing the video if you enjoyed it, or going to check out my other Super Sentai videos on Zenkaiger and other seasons. Please remember also that this list is based on my opinion of the visuals, so please don't get mad at me or other commenters, maybe celebrity cameos, for their thoughts on everything, especially regarding the word Megazord. I grew up with Power Rangers. Megazord is just a lot easier to say sometimes, even though this isn't technically a Power Rangers video. This is useless. I know you're gonna yell at me for saying Megazord. Anyway, so let's just get into the ranking. Coming in at last place, number 45, is the Change Robo from Changeman. I don't like this suit. Nothing on the suit really works for me. A lot of suits are going to use the red, blue, yellow colors, but here I don't think the colors mix well with the design at all. The big stripe on the chest is really ugly. The predominant yellow is kind of ugly as well. I don't really like it, and it comes off kind of cheap looking. The base design is also really simple and plain, which is not usually bad, but here there's nothing unique about it and it just looks boring. And the helmet is also awful, with the face being primarily dark blue. The idea of the colors here are cool and it looks fine on other suits, but here it's just terrible, looks awful, and the design is bad. So overall, this is just my least favorite Super Sentai Megazord. Just above it is the Dai Denzin. I hope I said that right. The blockiness of this guy is really fun. You can really feel the Showa-ness of the design, especially with the massive D on the chest. And the wackiness of the cone helmet with all the spikes is crazy, but I do quite like it. My main problem is, once again, the coloration. Just the light blue looks kind of nasty. I don't really like it that much, and it really drags down this whole Megazord suit. Oop, I said Megazord on the Sentai suit. Oh no. Just above that is the Battle Fever Robo from Battle Fever J. Now this has a great color scheme with the red and the black and just a little bit of yellow highlights. I think it looks really cool, and the silver undersuit is a great way to distinguish everything. And I really like the samurai theme going on with the armor and the helmet, but the helmet is really weird. I don't know what they're doing with it. The eyes are spaced out really weird, and the general shape of it is really oddly round. It's honestly the only thing that really brings the suit down for me, because I think it's overall pretty solid. It's just the head is really weird, and the head is pretty important in a design. So yeah. Next up is the Dyna Robo. The best part of this Megazord by far is its head. This dude handles the cone head thing, again, really well, in my opinion. There's probably a bit of bias here because of the red and black colors, but it's also got a really cool face with a full mouth plate and a badass visor. It really gives this suit a distinct personality, and I think it looks really cool. Everything else is okay. It's kind of the reverse of the Battle Fever Robo. There's not anything about the actual design or color usage that really stands out to me, and it's really jarring with the helmet being primarily red, and then the body has none of that carry over. The head is by far the best part, and then the body is just kind of boring. 5 Robo. As usual, the design here is just alright. There's nothing amazing, but there's nothing too bad either. The weirdest yet most interesting aspect is that the forearms have blasters attached perpendicularly, so they stick out at a real awkward angle. I don't know what's going on here. That's not really a bad thing. It's just a weird thing that I noticed. That's actually a lie. It's not the weirdest part of the Robo. The weirdest part is the colors. The face is all blue, but then like the lips are silver. I don't know what was that decision. It looks really weird. An all silver face would have been better, I think, in my opinion, because as it is now, it's like a weird inverse of the face on Cybertron Optimus Prime, and I'm not sure how I feel about that.
Our worlds are in danger.
Hey everybody, Sentai5 here, coming at you with my #1 Super Sentai Robo of all time. The greatest Super Sentai Robo I've ever laid eyes on, and that is Ninja Gattai Muteki Shogun. Beautiful, powerful, colossal, legendary, godly. This Robo is an absolute powerhouse. It's got such an iconic feudal castle look, as well as that beautiful crane head. Not to mention, it's 5 separate humanoid mecha, which have their own weapons as well, which allows them to put up a very good fight against monsters. Muteki Shogun itself has an incredible flame sword, which is a force to be reckoned with. The design itself is so raw that not only was it made into the DX line, obviously, but it was also made into the Super Mini-Pla and brought over into the Power Rangers Fighting Edition video game. Come on, what's not to love? In addition, it combines with Tsubasa Maru to form Super Muteki Shogun, and let me tell you, you don't want to be in front of that attack. Trust me. The overall concept of Muteki Shogun's 5 individual humanoid robos combining into one larger one was basically the framework for the next 2 years with O-Blocker and VRV Robo. Yeah, so that's about it for my top pick. Hope you enjoyed it. Maybe you agree, disagree, who knows, but thanks for watching.
The overall design of the live Robo is pretty fantastic in my opinion. I love the weird submarine legs it has, the lion chest plate, the eagle shield, gauntlet, weapon thingy doodle, and the head is again arguably the weakest part, but I still think it has a really cool and unique design. Once again, the colors kind of ruin this thing. Not ruin, but they do bring it down. The chest has so much yellow on it that it turns into like a overly yellow assortment for me that I'm not really a fan of, and then the colors on the helmet are also kind of weird. Maybe it's like the yellow eyes and the partly red face, or maybe just the actual design of it is really weird and I'm lying to myself about how I think it's alright. I mean, that is my opinion on this thing. It's alright. From what I understand, this Robo is really hated among the fandom, but I don't hate it. I think the Turbo Robo is absolutely absurd, and I love that. His feet are just cars. Like, there's no hiding that. They've got all the cute little detailing that makes them feel like real cars, and it just adds to this insanity to the design, and I really love it. I think it's really funny. I love how this detail carries up to the chest in a minor way, with it very clearly being the hood of a car, and the helmet is also pretty cool with the black visor and the rounded helmet. The design isn't really anything amazing outside of the feet, but I love the car feet. It's so funny. I don't know what it is. I just think the car feet are so funny, and I really like the car feet. And back to car combiners. Undeniably, the RV Robo is better than the Turbo Robo just because it just looks cooler. I like this one more because it just feels more unified. It's slimmer, the cars are a little more subtle, but still just as in your face, and I like that. The light motif is also a fun touch to once again add to the unification of this design, alongside the numbers from each of the individual components of the robot. Of course, there's still some individuality among the parts, like the return of the entire legs just being cars instead of just the feet, and a red line goes down the middle for the head and the chest. That of course comes from the red Zord. But that's also where the worst part of this design comes from. The head is really weird. Again, the eyes are awkwardly spaced. They have this weird black border, and then there's this silver bit in the middle that looks like it's supposed to be a nose but continues upward and just looks strange, and no, So I know that Gao Ranger is pretty beloved by a lot of fans, but the robot, at least the main robot, I don't really feel it that much. My biggest problem is the head, again. The actual face, what feels like the head, is so tiny. Like, I have no problem with giving the robot a big head crest, but now, like, the head is super small, so I don't know. But then the lion head is super big, and then, like, the animal faces are really weird too. Like the bull head on the crotch is massive. It has these big horns. I don't understand the decision. Honestly, the heads of this thing are the worst. The bull head, the lion head are both too big, but the head is a little bit too small, not counting the head crest. Dai Reno does an amazing job of combining ancient and modern visuals, which is, I think, what the show is meant to be going for. So the overall aesthetic, of course, invokes this ancient warrior thing because of the general Dai Ranger motifs and the specific helmet design. And there are all these intricate details on like every part of the suit. So it also gives me a bit of this futuristic vibe. Maybe that wasn't the intent, but it's the vibe I get, especially with the visor, and it works really well with this warrior helmet. So I think that's really the best part of this like futuristic ancient warrior combination thing, and I just think it looks cool. One small nitpick I have about this thing is the shoulder pads. I don't know why. Maybe it's the shape they're using. It's kind of strange. Maybe could have been designed a bit differently or better, but overall I think this is still a cool suit. Googly eyes robo, that's a joke. It's the goggle robo. I just wanted to make a googly eyes joke. The best part about this robot for me is the colors. Obviously, I love red and black, and with those being the main colors here, the whole arrangement really speaks to me. The little bits of yellow on the shins are also a great contrast from the chest piece, which has a cool spaceship-esque design and does tie into the helmet piece. I'm not a fan of the cone head. Again, cone heads are stupid, especially with the weird stretched face this thing has that adds to the overall wonkiness and really drags it down. Despite the amazing colors, I think the design is a little bit strange.
For my favorite Sentai Robo, it would have to be Shinkano from Samurai Sentai Zenkaiger. Now there is a lot of bias there because my first Power Ranger season was Power Ranger Samurai, so I do have that kind of connection with it being like my first Megazord, but there's just a lot about it that I really, really like. One thing that I've always loved about the Samurai Megazord, or Shinkano, is the helmets. I just love the whole design with the different symbols on the little, it's based off of, like, a samurai helmet and everything, which, of course, that makes sense. But I do like that it has, like, the shapes of the different, the circle and the hexagon and the square, all the ones that the, Zords turn into are on there, which just looks pretty neat. And also, the whole thing just works so well with, being able to do the shapes and everything, and it looks cool when they stack it up in like a little tower when they did that in the first episode or the second episode, whenever they did that. And the sword is awesome with all the kanji written alongside of it, and like when it stands on the mountain when they're done forming it and everything. And that helmet's so good that they had to give it to Shinken Gokaiyo a couple years later in Zenkaiger. That's how good it is. It's a top-notch mecha in my opinion. It just works so well. Oh, I like that part where they put the helmet on and then that clasp comes around the neck and kind of locks it in. It's just a fun extra thing that they've done. I love Shinkano so much that I even have a giant poster of it there on my wall that I can look at whenever I want to because Shinkano's awesome. I love Shinkano.
This dude is weird, very weird, but it kind of works. First of all, I love the colors. The red undersuit is just really cool, especially with all these little detailed bits of it, and then the cool symbols on the shoulders are nice, and I like the limbs. All the limbs are primarily black and gold, which is a great color scheme, and it gets highlighted with the color of the ranger that makes up the main part of those individual limbs, which is really cool. Now I should address the big red Zord in the chest, which I love it because they've got it designed so it looks like it's just piloting this robot, so it's like a big mech suit, and I think it's such a unique design aspect that no other Megazord uses. Something about the actual execution, how far the legs stick out, I don't know, it just feels a bit strange, and it's not as cool as I think the idea is, but I still think everything else is pretty solid on this Megazord, and it's awesome. I don't know how to start this discussion on Tokyo, because this is infamously known as probably the most ridiculous Megazord ever, because it's just a bunch of trains and it creates the worst thing I have ever seen in my life, and I'm so tired of hearing about it, so I'm not going to talk about it anymore. The ridiculousness of this design being a bunch of trains is actually why I like it so much. It's really quite simplistic. Its colors are just lines going up and down in certain segments, but I don't know, it's just so stupid in a really charming way. I like it. The arms are just trains, the hands are just walls, the head is just train doors opening up, the body is just a railway. It's all made up of these cute little design details that, yeah, are totally ridiculous, but something about it all coming together is really hilarious to me, but also just looks really cool. I don't mind Tokyo. I think Tokyo's pretty cool, and he gets way too much hate. I'm sorry, Tokyo. I hate that meme. So 2/3 of Senpujin works really well to me. If we cut off the head, everything flows really well. The gold and blue complement each other really nicely, and they don't really overstay their welcome at any point, so it's just one big robot body, I think. The slight asymmetry with the arms is super cool by switching the animal heads and dials and their placements. The lion and the dial is placed on the shoulder, while the dolphin head and dial is on the forearm of the other arm, and if we add the head, now things get disjointed. With the only other red on the design being the knee pads and the team symbol, the head just feels super out of place because it's just completely red. It has a bit of gold, but I think it needed some more blue, maybe some black, to tie everything together, especially because the design of the helmet is just really cool. I love the flared out falcon wings and this ninja mask. If there was that recoloring present, I think Senpujin would be much higher on this list, but as it is now, I think it just kind of makes it wackier, and it kind of brings down this Megazord. And at this point, I'm realizing a lot of these Megazords are brought down just because the head is weird. Before I begin discussion on the Muteki Shogun, I need to add a disclaimer that there is no bias here because Muteki is in the name, and I love Hyper Muteki from Kamen Rider. Moving on. I love how absolutely chunky this dude is. This robot did not skip arm day, leg day, chest day, abs day, everything day. And as a result, this thing almost looks like it isn't a combination. It looks like a really unified robot, and I think it's really cool. But of course, it is a combination, and I really like that there are small details that show it is a combination with the different color arms and the different shapes on the legs, and it's a really unique take on demonstrating a combination. Once again, the head is the best and worst part for me. I love how massive it is with these big old spikes and this pillar on the head. I just think the face is oddly colored, but this is still a pretty cool Megazord. Okay, so that was part 1 of my ranking of all the primary mechas, robots, Megazords. I hope you enjoyed this part, and be sure to stay tuned for the next part of the mini-series to hear the rest of my ranking. Be sure to hit that subscribe button to stay tuned for those videos, and I hope to see you next time.